Back here, first things first, big news here at Fox Sports. Yesterday, Fox and the Stars Group announced plans to launch Fox Bets, the first of its kind national media and sports wagering partnership in the United States. This is all set to kick off in the fall with the launch of two products, a nationwide free-to-play game awarding cash prizes to players who correctly predict the outcome of sports games, and the Fox Bet app, which will give customers in states with regulated betting the opportunity to place real money wagers. Among people who are very happy, the guy that sits behind me. Fox Sports is truly all in.
This is awesome. This is so great.
I had him on the leash, but then he ran out.
No, this is so great. Man, this is, and no matter what state you live in, to your point, you can utilize this. And if you live in a state where they've done the right thing and they've legalized gambling, you can really utilize it.
And I love the fact that now that instead of being a bookie, now he can just go. They can go right into Nick's account and just get the money from the money they put there. Well, let's take a few
I do wonder. I do need to talk to some of the bosses. Can you guys just pay me in some credits? So we could.
Is it really what you want?
Think
about what you're asking.
It makes it easier to hide from my
Nick
wife.
wants a lifetime deal.
Absolutely. I will sign a lifetime contract right now, and this will be a part of it.
All right, we'll get to Bucks Celtics.
I'll be the first to say that this is, as far as any other year that I've been a head coach, it's certainly been the most trying. I think I did a bad job. Like at the end of the day, like as a coach, if your team doesn't find its best fit together, that's on you. And so I'll do a lot of deep dives into how I can be better.
There's going to be a lot of people that are going to doubt us, and that's the world of basketball, and that's the world of media. No disrespect. There's going to be people that they're going to be with us, and there's going to be people that are going to be against us and don't believe in us. But at the end of the day, we realize that we've never been there before, but we're really, really hungry to achieve our goals.
CC, save for game one in this series, the Bucks looked really impressive, and now they are moving on. How impressive was Milwaukee in this series?
Milwaukee was very impressive, and it's an extension of what we saw during the regular season. I think Nick has done a great job in pointing out for the last week and a half, 2 weeks, what are we looking at? Because you shouldn't be surprised. This is a 62-win team. How they played basketball, I think that people don't understand, because you think of Giannis, and you don't think, okay, Giannis is not a great shooter. But they're a great shooting team, and they are going to hit that three-point line, be able to open up the lane for Giannis. They are a good defensive team. They got good length. They got guys are buying into the system as far as what they're going to do. And Nick, from last year, you didn't know how much, but with the coaching change that they made, how the players develop, and from an X's and O's standpoint, that they would be a lot better. We didn't know from a game standpoint how many games, but you can see that with Coach Bud, how they do things, how they can counteract what you're trying to do, and how consistently they've been doing this. They've been blowing out people for 7 straight months. Yes. So we shouldn't be surprised these double-digit wins that they start to accumulate in the playoffs, Nick.
This is how much they improved. The Milwaukee Bucks are going to win the NBA championship. The Milwaukee Bucks this morning are the favorite. The Milwaukee Bucks have the best player. Any doubts you have?
I know you didn't get a lot of sleep and everything, and man, it's hard to do these early shows when you...
No problem.
Do you realize what you're saying?
I realize what I'm saying. Given the uncertainty of Kevin Durant, given that if the Rockets get through it, they will have gone through a gauntlet. Given the fact that we don't know yet if it's going to be Toronto or Philly, but either one of those teams is, if Philly gets there, they are going to be beat up. If Toronto gets there, they all of a sudden do not have a bench to deal with Milwaukee's. Any questions you had about Milwaukee were answered over these last 4 games when they eviscerated a Celtics team that had everything on the line. Not just this year, their future was on the line. Brad Stevens said it, first year of his career where they didn't meet expectations, where he considered himself a disappointment. The Milwaukee Bucks are the best team in the NBA. The Milwaukee Bucks wake up this morning for the first time all season as the favorites to win the title, at least in my eyes. I don't know if Vegas agrees. And the Milwaukee Bucks are going to win the championship. That is where I am at this morning. And there is no, when you have a team who is the second best three-point shooting team in the league, but their best player doesn't even shoot them, and they have the #1 defense, and they just got a 50, 40, 90 guy back in Malcolm Brogdon, and they have a center that's 7 feet tall and shoots threes, there are no answers to the questions they demand of the opposing team.
And I think the most important 16 minutes that we might have seen in this playoffs might have been that 16 minutes that Malcolm Brogdon gave them. They get another knockdown shooter, a big guard, a 3D guy, a guy that can guard the wings, and another shooter like no other team in the playoffs at this stage. We're losing players. Warriors, they lost Boogie. They lost KD.
Sure.
And now we're getting back former Rookie of the Year who blends in well to what they're doing. I think that point as far as Brogdon and those 16 minutes that he got in that clinching game.
But
yes.
How hard would it be to look good playing Detroit and then playing a Celtics team that couldn't get together? How much adversity has this team really faced that makes you think, hey, I can overcome that, except for that one game, and I can still win and put it all together?
82 games. Same 82 games the rest of the teams played. How they played against the best teams in the league. What about their record on the road? Oh, how they doing in their new arena playing at home? How have they, as a team, had that chemistry that I believe that is underrated? Hey, no locker room problems. No, free agent. Chris Middleton's going to be a free agent. Do we hear anything about it? No, because they have handled this season. We can't be surprised. Great teams, and sometimes in winning a championship, you need a little favorable matchup.
Well, and I don't know that people they only look at Boston as not providing adversity because the Bucks imposed their will on them and dominated them.
Great teams embarrass you.
They've been a terrible team all year.
The Celtics have
played way below their...
They have absolutely played below their expectations, preparing for this moment. And the Bucks, after falling down 0-1, they beat them by an average of 20 points per game the rest of the series. The margin of victory matters in this.
Yeah, that's what great teams do to you, too.
The Bucks have 52 wins by double digits this year. They're 8-1 in the postseason. Everyone else this playoffs has at least 3 losses. They're 8-1. Their average margin of victory in those wins is 20 points. They have the exact same margin of victory through 9 games as the 72-win Chicago Bulls. They are a juggernaut. People don't want to believe it because they play in Milwaukee, and people, if we're being honest, weren't watching them this year. I don't have much of a life. I was watching them this year. I wanted to see how. The only question was, and the only reason I wasn't willing to make this prediction before the playoffs was, can Giannis skip 2 steps in the postseason? We saw him skip a couple steps during the regular season, but can he go from one and done in the postseason to best player on a champion? That usually takes a couple years. Giannis is ready. This team is ready, and the Durant injury just opens the door wider. All
right, let's talk about the Celtics. You heard Brad Stevens say this one's on me, but who's really to blame for this disappointing Boston season?
There is no one person for this, and it's so. This is what we like to do. We like to build a pinpoint. But when you look at how this team has failed, you can go all the way from the top. Danny Ainge, he miscalculated in putting this team together. Brad Stevens did a bad job as far as, this is the most talented team he's ever coached. And he admitted it. I got to respect that. He admitted it before the world. I did a bad job. And collectively, the starters on this team, they know that they didn't do their best job. The leaders on this team, they didn't do a good job leading. The role players, did they totally buy in? What I saw this year was a talented roster, and we see this in the NFL a lot, where you go out and buy a bunch of free agents like we did with the Rams last year. Say, hey, how are they going to do in the locker room? And I try to tell you guys, don't worry about the NFL locker room. But chemistry is important in sports, and in basketball, it becomes very important. We didn't even think about chemistry. We thought last year they went to the Eastern Conference Finals, plug in 2 more former All-Stars, they're going to be even better. But they had awful chemistry. They did not have that, what's important to you is important to me. No, they had their own agendas up and down this roster, and horrible leadership, bad coaching, bad management by Danny Ainge. So Boston, they have to take this as an organization. I'm not going to put this on one person.
But 3 people more than any other deserve the lion's share of the blame. Brad Stevens, he can't only be praised. He can't only be Brad Stevens, can only do well because he overachieves with an under-talented team. You just underachieved with an over-talented team. The highest paid player on the roster, Gordon Hayward. I understand we feel badly because we believe it's due to him shattering his leg last year, but at no point this season did he give you the punch you needed for a guy making $30 million a year. And for being honest, he didn't give you the punch you needed for a guy making $13 million a year. And then, of course, more than anyone, Kyrie Irving, who never once connected with the young players. Terry Rozier had a very interesting quote after the game. He said, I sacrifice more than anybody on this team. Oh, if you're on a team that you have players individually in their head keeping track of, I've sacrificed the most. He said, then guess what? You're not going to trust each other on rotations. You're not going to look forward to these road trips. We heard, oh, this plane ride, cross country fixed them. Nothing fixed them. Nothing this season was going to fix them, and they ran into a team that is the opposite. Milwaukee is totally united, and it ripped the Celtics apart at the seams.
And now the next question becomes, what happens to Kyrie Irving? We will discuss that today and all the todays that follow. And the Bucks are heading to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time since 2001. Take a break. Coming up.
Plan the parade.
You are not going to believe what happened behind the scenes with Ty Lue and the Lakers. It's getting spicy.
You're really not going to believe it.
Next on First Things First.
Because it is unbelievable.